Good morning and welcome to The Secret Behind Our Success. I am Rebecca Roush, your host and head lizard at Neon Lizard Creative Marketing and Design, where we build foundational brands with social impact. Find us on the web at neonlizardcreative.com. Today, we are honored and thrilled to have with us none other than Justin Nassiri, a serial entrepreneur and guru of all things podcast. As a solo founder, he has raised more than $3 million in venture capital, including an investment from Google's chairman. His software products have been used by 35 Fortune 500 companies, and he is phenomenally successful, and I suspect full of secrets to share. So he now runs Captivate AI, which provides content production and editing for podcasters across the globe, helping them turn one podcast of webinar into 3 months of content. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are so excited to know you. So tell us more about yourself and Captivate.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, Rebecca. And I will add to that. I live in Denver, Colorado with a 2-year-old son and my wife and a dog who barks at the most inopportune times. But like you said, for the last year, my focus has been on Captivate.ai and just really fascinated. I always think of the Native Americans, they say they used every last piece of the buffalo. And I feel like we as marketers today, we're creating exceptional podcasts and webinars and events, and we just get 10% of the value. And so we're really about helping you get 90% more value by finding the best snippets, turning it into compelling content that's snackable for social media in a way that drives more sales and grows your audience.
That is fantastic. I love that analogy of the buffalo. I love that. Do you have any Indian in you by chance?
No, I don't. I just started reading. I read a book lately about the Native American culture, and it was just fascinating. I know very little about it, but I feel like there's a lot to learn from that culture.
Well, that's fantastic. I love that since so many people are so busy these days, we don't have time to listen to lengthy podcasts all the time. And who wants to watch an hour-long webinars? So to have these little snippets is phenomenal. How do you find those gems?
Right now, we use a lot of technology in what we do, but the one piece that we've preserved as 100% human is finding the best pieces. So we actually have a team of people who they don't even just look at the transcript. They actually watch the video of each podcast, because what we found is that oftentimes what makes for the best content isn't necessarily in the transcript. Like in this conversation here, there might be a moment when I laugh in what you say, or there might be a reaction where you breathe in and that makes for great snackable content, but it's not going to show up on a transcript. So we actually use very intelligent human beings who watch videos and say, this is the best clips, and they cut it up and they do jump cuts and they trim out the fat. And then, from there, a lot of technology takes over, but that piece right now is human beings.
That's fantastic. I love that. I use a software that does little variations for me, and I'm amazed how well it does, but it lacks that little something. And that's really cool that you guys are able to do that. But that's great. I'm going to back up for just a second though.
Yeah.
All right. I have kids that need a career. How did you get into this? What is your background and how did you start doing podcasting snippets?
Yeah. So let's see, I'll give you a little bit of a longer version, but we can double click into whatever fascinates you. So I actually started out forever ago in the Navy. I was on nuclear submarines for 5 years. And when I got out, I had no idea what I was going to do. So I went to business school as kind of a reset button. And when I was at business school, I got exposure to all of these potential careers that I'd never heard of. Wow. And one of them was realizing that big companies come from small companies that are started by 1 or 2 people who had an idea. So I started a company called Storybox and was fortunate to get a lot of funding and just went through 8 years of getting the crap beaten out of me, growing a company and shrinking it and just making all these mistakes and getting bruises and scars. But when I emerged from that, I had 2 things with me. One of them was I was really in love with the thought of creating a company. I was really in love with this thought that, I can find a pain point, I can find something that sucks, and I can find a way to fix it and help a lot of people. I loved that. But the second piece was Storybox was this marketing technology company, and I got to know thousands of marketers in my role there. And what I realized was marketers have such a tough job because you've got now 6, 10, 12 different social media channels that you have to be active on, usually posting once a day. And then you've got a team of people that are taxed with coming up with original content to publish relentlessly. It just never stops.
Right.
And so, simultaneously with this, I love to create, I created a podcast called Beyond the Uniform, and it was a vehicle to give back to the military community and help them figure out, what are you going to do when you grow up, or not grow up, but when you leave the military? And what I learned there was, like we talked about, podcasts are content marketing machines. In this, 30, 45-minute conversation with you, there's going to be so much that you could repurpose as a blog, as a video, as a graphic. And so combining what I knew from Storybox and what I learned at Beyond the Uniform, that was really the genesis of Captivate, of saying, let's go and help solopreneurs, let's help businesses, let's help organizations create content for every social media channel. Let's give them the ammo to publish consistently on 20 different social media channels. And all it takes is a podcast. All it takes is a webinar. All it takes is an event.
And a really smart guy like you.
Thank you.
That's what
Thank you.
I'm gonna digress for a second. I've got one question. I've got a burning question. Are you ready? Has nothing to do with it.
I'm ready. I had to take a chug of coffee to make sure I'm ready, but I think I'm ready.
Okay. How bad did it stink on that submarine?
Not bad. They've got probably tens of thousands of dollars of air scrubbers. You actually make your own oxygen on a submarine. They have this oxygen generator, and then they actually have scrubbers to clean the air. So in some ways, it's probably cleaner than being on an airplane. And I think people have a conception that submarines are really tiny, but I've been in a lot of cubicles and offices that are worse. They can be quite big.
I just think about being trapped in a tin can with my 3 sons. I don't think it'd go so well. Anyway, I just had to ask that. I was just dying to know that when I was reading all your stuff. I'm absolutely enthralled with the AI. Are you a programmer by trade? I mean, was that something that you picked up along the way?
I am not. So I, for college, I studied electrical engineering, which was probably a big mistake. It did not come naturally to me. And then in the military, on submarines, I was a nuclear engineer, which was also very, very difficult for me. But one of the things that happened when I graduated from business school is I had this idea. It was for a technology, and I was literally, sketching out what I wanted it to look like. And at the time, there was a company called Rent-A-Coder. And what was beautiful about Rent-A-Coder, and now it's, there's Elance and there's Upwork and there's all these things. What I was able to do is I was able to write out and say, hey, this is what I want built. I have no idea how much this should cost to build. But then you've got a marketplace of developers all over the world, and they were starting to bid. And they said, hey, I can build that for you in 2 months and $10,000. And you get a sense, someone like me that doesn't know how complex it is, you start to get a sense of like, oh, okay, this is probably about $2,000 in about a month. And all of these platforms like Upwork, they have ratings and reviews. So I'm not taking a risk. I don't have to look at someone's code, which I can't do, but I can say, hey, this person's got 10,000 reviews at 5 stars. They're probably pretty good. Right. And so what that allowed me to do for Storybox at a starting point was build it without me building it. And I was able to work with the developer and slowly add features. And again, each time I needed a new feature, I'd say, hey, this is what I need. I need this button that does this. And then they'd say, okay, it costs this. And I say, okay, I have enough money to do that. And so I just say that what's great about today's world is you can build and run and grow a tech company without being a tech person. You just need to be able to take the vision in your head, put it on paper, and communicate it to a team. Yep.
That is great advice. And you've got some big, big dogs on your side. You have done some really big work with some big people. Tell me, how did you connect with them?
So I'll give you an example. My first big client for Storybox was Intuit, which is a Fortune 5,000 company. And it came about from cold outreach. It came about from me.
Way.
Yeah. And I tell this because I know that a lot of listeners, they may not feel like they've got a great network. They may not feel like, hey, I've got, people who are going to make introductions for me.
Right.
And it's what it's what I was doing a lot yesterday for Captivate. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. And what I do is I come up with a really precise guess of who I'm selling to. So I'd say, hey, the person I think I'm selling to is this size of company. They have this title. They live in this geographic area. I just kind of come up with a hypothesis. LinkedIn makes it really good to find hundreds of people like that. And then we've all been on the receiving end of bad salespeople who send you something super generic that you just instantly recognize as generic and delete. So I try to do the opposite of that. I try to be, more of a rifle than a shotgun, a little bit more precise. And so I'll spend 10 minutes writing an email and I'll say, hey, Rebecca, I see that you do this. I really liked on LinkedIn that you said this and you did this. And very clearly showing that I've done my homework. And because I did my homework, I can say, hey, I saw, oftentimes I'll do this. I'll say, hey, I see that you're doing a podcast. You've got a great company, but I noticed that you're just kind of slapping a picture or a link to YouTube and no one's watching it. But, we could actually do better. And this is how we would do it. So I try to be really precise. And, last thing I'll say for your audience is like, I feel like everything, this was true of my dating life before I got married. It's true of sales. Everything's kind of a numbers game. You got to meet with a lot of people to find the person you want to go on a second date with. And so, I just kind of have learned over time that if I do this approach with 30 people, maybe one of them is open to meeting and maybe, that becomes a customer. It's just kind of persistence, smart persistence, and doing a lot of it. And eventually that led to me getting into it as a customer.
Where do you see your company in 5 to 10 years, do you think?
It's something I think about a lot. I read a great book. It's a little bit dated, but the book is called The E-Myth, the entrepreneur myth.
I've read that.
It's so great. I wish I would have read this a decade ago.
Just tell me what you need to know. I've read them all.
What I loved about this gentleman's recommendation was envision your company 5 to 10 years from now, and you kind of build backwards.
Right.
And, I feel like right now, what I'm trying to build towards is what I would view as Uber for creatives. And a lot of what we do right now is people enhanced by technology. And so by that, I mean, we broadcast out to our network of all these creatives around the world. And we say, hey, Intuit has a new podcast. We need 3 LinkedIn videos. We need 3 Instagram reels. We need 3 TikTok videos. Who's available? Who's qualified to do that? And the first person to respond gets assigned them, and we farm it out incredibly efficiently. Mm-hmm. And to our client, it almost seems like it's just instantaneous. Mm-hmm. But in the truth, we're just really efficiently certifying people and sending them the right things and having quality controls. And so 5 years from now, I would love to see us having thousands of people all around the world contributing to our clients and giving them quality videos and graphics and blog posts, and us really being the center hub of facilitating that.
That's very much like so it's remotely based. Is that correct?
100%. Yep.
Yeah. So am I.
Yep.
It's a lot of fun that way. And when you have a good CRM, people can do a lot more than you think, which is space. So,
and it's one last thing I'll say on that is that when I built Storybox, I raised about $3 million. I had a team of about 30 people, all in San Francisco, and it worked well there. I'm trying to do the opposite right now, which is much more. I love what you do, Rebecca, because you're so values driven and alignment driven. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to build Captivate more aligned with who I am, good, bad, and ugly. And who I am is I would like to not raise any outside investment. I don't want the pressure of that.
Right.
I would like to do it with 100% remote team. And at least in this moment, my aspiration is to build the company 100% contractors and not full-time employees. And that's just because I found that I'm not a great manager, and I like to build things where I can replace people if they're not a good fit really easily. and having systems to do that helps. And so that's kind of the way I see the world now. It's always subject to change, but that's where I'm at now.
I think 2020 changed it for everybody to some extent as well. I know that my husband is a Java programmer and he's no longer going to go back to an office. They said, no, we're going to keep everybody at home. We don't need that overhead anymore. It just is smart business. And if it aligns with your values, like you've done, and your values, you wear them on your sleeve. You wear them on your head, your sleeve, your legs, everywhere else. Because I have not seen another company, I don't think, that gives back as much as you do. It's amazing, from beyond the uniform and then coffee meets bagel. You haven't talked about that yet. I just really impressed by this. And if I'm gonna ask you a question though. Here's kind of my whole spiel for this podcast is successful people go through the good, the bad, and the ugly. They go through hard times. Our self-talk is what gets us through certain things, I believe, in my opinion. And I think, like for myself, I have some mantras per se that I'll say to myself, okay, and I just repeat them. Do you have a mantra that you kind of use to push through tough times?
Well, first of all, I love the overarching theme there. I heard Tony Robbins say, I don't know, 5 years ago, and I think it's the most true phrase. He said, entrepreneurship is 90% psychology, 10% skills.
Yep.
And I think it's a beautiful phrase if you're not an entrepreneur, but once you become an entrepreneur, you realize how true it is. And it's grueling. It's grueling to stay at this when it feels like the universe is conspiring to suppress
like having a
what you're doing.
Newborn.
It is. It really is. I'll tell you, I don't know if am I allowed to curse on this show?
Do whatever you want. I don't care.
Okay. The phrase that, it might not be a mantra. Actually, it is a mantra. The phrase that, I'll say that, a quick aside, I loved in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, they go through Narnia through the wardrobe. And, I read this book 30 years ago, but the way I remember it is at the end, they try to go through the wardrobe and it's just a wardrobe. And there's this wizened old man who's like, hey, you got to find a new entryway. And I feel like that with mantras, where it's like you kind of find one that works until it doesn't, and then you got to find the new entryway to your Narnia. Correct. So the one that I have right now that is really powerful for me is fuck the blueprint. And I like this sense of like
the biggest bad word.
Yes, I know. We'll just go straight there. Okay. But it's kind of like I have this image where I want to build this cathedral. Like I want to build a company that outlasts me. I want to build something that's monumental, a legacy. Yeah. And what I mean by fuck the blueprint is I had this kind of insight years ago where it's like, you know what? I just want to focus on building the brick in front of me. Mm-hmm. I want to give my entire presence and everything I am to just building the best brick that I have right now. I don't need to know what brick is next. I don't even need to know if there is another brick. I may not even see this cathedral built, but I know that if I focus everything I'm at whatever the brick is in front of me, that's all I need to do. And so my brick right now is trying to be as present as possible with you on this podcast and just having a great conversation. And it's fighting the part of me that's thinking about the sales emails I need to write and this website I need to do and all these other things. But it's like just slowing down and saying, let me just identify the brick I need to do right now. When that's done, what's the next brick I need to do? And fuck the blueprint. I don't have to know where this is going. All I need to do is brick by brick, giving it my all.
I think that's great. That's great advice for anyone. And since you've got so many irons in the fire, you have multiple bricks you have to change your focus on. Yep. So you're in Coffee Meets Bagel, you're Beyond the Uniform, you're in Captivate. I suspect you're probably in 14 other things. You wrote a book, for God's sake. I mean, you're like Superman. How do you differ? I mean, I'm kind of going through the same thing. I got a million things going on right now, and it's really hard for me to focus down with one thing. So that's fantastic advice, just even to me. Yep. I'm sure the listeners are loving it too, but I mean, why do so much?
Yep. I'm actually, and I don't think there's a one size fits all for this, but I feel like I'm in a period of life. I'm 42 now. This might be a 42-year-old thing, but I feel like I'm in the process of narrowing, and I'm in the process. There's, a lot of commitments that I have that one by one I'm able to kind of get out and say no to. And so like there's a mastermind. Yeah, there's a mastermind group I've been running for a while that I'm, just at the end of the commitment, I'm going to say, okay, I'm stepping away from this. And I feel like at this point in my life, I've got room for my wife and 2-year-old. I've got room for Captivate. And that's kind of it. It's kind of like starting to just say no to things. And maybe that's just part of life, is that we go through phases where we're at the Vegas buffet. We're trying 1,000 different foods and saying like, okay, I like this one. I'm going to triple down on that. But it can be really hard. It can be hard for me because I want to do it all. But I'm realizing, mainly driven by my 2-year-old, I've only got a little bit of room, and I want to be much more intentional in how I do that. And I don't prescribe that as advice. Like, I think that there's a benefit to the omnivore approach, but I think it's like we go in seasons. We do a lot, and then we realize like, okay, I only have enough energy. Yeah, it becomes too much. Yep.
Well, that's incredible, because not a lot of people as entrepreneurs take time for themselves. We are the worst for being. I am the worst. I can only speak for myself. Let's just put it that way. You know, working 100% of the time. I got a coach yesterday who is going to help me get my life balance back, because I am such a pleaser and I want to do so much, and I want to help so many people. And what the things that you started, such as Coffee Meets Bagel, your dating app, as well as the Beyond the Uniform, are those autonomous now? They don't need you there? Have you created something that can run itself?
Oh, well, just one correction. So I Coffee Meets Bagel is a client, but I didn't start that one. I started a company called start a company called Storybox, which I just sold that company. And so that was part of an intention I set about a year ago, of saying I need to get Storybox off my plate and finding someone to take that over.
Sorry, I understood that. I thought you had started that, and I was
no. I wish that was a great client for us, but and then Beyond the Uniform is so I'll say that Beyond the Uniform is the podcast I do that helps military veterans, but what you said resonates with me. That's why I'm pausing, because like I'm a pleaser, and there's part of me that will show up for everyone else before myself. And I'll give a specific example with Beyond the Uniform of wanting to continue to serve this military audience, but realizing I started to realize like our audience wins, the guest who comes on the show wins, and I'm the only one who's left depleted because I'm using my time and my money to keep it going. And so one tiny tweak that I made that continues to serve everyone, but also myself, is I said, you know what? There is a lot of military veterans who started companies that could actually be Captivate clients. And so what I started saying is like, okay, I'm going to start going after people who have started these big companies who are military veterans. I'm going to interview them. I'm going to get to know them. That helps our audience. That helps them. They get exposure. But I also create a relationship with someone who might become a Captivate customer. And it's actually worked twice now. And so I use that as an example of like, service doesn't have to mean I'm left empty. Service can be a win-win-win situation where Beyond the Uniform wins, the guest wins, and I win. Because, otherwise I become this depleted husk that has nothing to give. And that doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve my family. It doesn't serve the world. And so it's something that's very top of mind for me, is like you said, how do I make sure I'm taking care of my needs? And especially, I go straight from the office, I go to baby mode with the 2-year-old. It's like making sure there's the pauses, even if it's a 5 or 10 minute pause to meditate, to go for a walk, to talk to a friend. How can I find ways to fill myself up in the nooks and crannies of my schedule? Because if I don't do that, if I don't prioritize that, it's not going to happen, and I'm going to run out of gas.
Right. Even though I'm sure you're just like me, you absolutely adore what you do.
Yep.
And you could do it all the time, and it makes you happy, and it makes you happy when other people are happy. I know for myself, if I don't have a giddy client, I am not happy at all. They've got to be beyond happy. they've got to be giddy. And that's my thing. But there's challenges along that way. Did you have, or did something happen specifically that was your biggest challenge that changed you in this attitude?
Oh, I can tell you the precise moment, which was when I first met my wife. We were dating at the time. This is, I don't know, eight to 10 years ago. And when we met, Storybox was going through yet another tumultuous time. And I was 20 pounds overweight. My finances were completely out of control. My mental health was completely like every area of my life was off. I was just running on fumes. And she was like, look, you're stressed out of your mind. You need to see a therapist. I started working with that therapist who got me into meditation, which got me into a lot of the other work that I do. And, it really kind of got me back to neutral. It got me back to not coming from a place of depletion and overwhelm. And that was the turning point. And it is exciting for me. I started Captivate last year. It's exciting to start a company and try to do things differently. So with Storybox, I was always paying everyone else and I was never really paying myself. And I'm like, that's not going to happen with Captivate. I'm going to start by paying myself so I'm not worried about finances.
Right.
And, there's the tendency to want to work 24/7. And again, I'm trying to do a new path of saying, look, I got to do my physical exercise each day. I need to do my meditation each day. I need to do my stretching. There's these things that I need to do. But I'm only doing that now because 8 years ago when I was doing Storybox, I did the opposite. And I saw, and this is over the course of years, I saw the impact on my physical health, my mental health, my financial health. All of these things suffered for years. And that was enough to kind of build up and say, like, I don't want to do that again. And the only way to avoid that is to be really diligent. And I'll tell you, last night, there was emails that were unanswered. There were things that weren't done. And I knew I was on empty. I sat on the couch. I read Outside Magazine, which is one of my guilty pleasures. And that's one of the ways that I kind of fill myself up is by reading, a magazine that doesn't further my career. It's not going to, make headlines, but it gets me full so that today I can be here present with you rather than just feeling completely wiped.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you took the time to be here. I don't want to keep you too much longer, but I got a couple more questions I want to ask. First off, what do you think the biggest opportunity or threats, either one or both, in your industry? Are you concerned about censorships and things like that? What are the things in your industry that you're concerned about?
I think the fundamental trend that we're chasing is that companies want to forge a relationship with customers. They want to capture their attention. And that's why I called the company Captivate. How do you captivate your customers so you can get their attention? That will never change. That's a fundamental philosophy. Like throughout history, businesses have trying to be captivating their customers. The nuance of it will always change, whether it's, today TikTok is having its heyday, Instagram Reels are doing well, LinkedIn is doing well, but we have to stay current with our clients. We have to stay current of what is the new way to capture people? Is it on Clubhouse? What is the way that's going to be? And I saw with Storybox, I fell in love with my product rather than my customers. We missed a major pivot because I was so fixated.
That's a gem right there.
Yep.
That's a golden nugget right there.
Yep. Yeah.
And I think that's classic. I have more clients that do that where they're so in love with their brand, they're not thinking about the customer on the other end.
Yep.
And I think
that's what entrepreneurship is. As much as there's the part of me that wants to just build the perfect solution and coast on that, the truth is it's moment to moment, day to day, listening to our customers and our prospective customers on what they're needing and how we can solve that problem. The moment we stop doing that is when we're out of business, because everything's evolving. Social media is evolving, marketing's evolving, people's attention is evolving. So in some ways that's exhausting, but in some ways the part of me that loves variety loves that I have to stay sharp. I have to stay empathetic and listening, because that's the only way we can continue to evolve along with the market.
Agreed. So if I was your investor, What are some things I might get pretty excited about?
I mean, the truth is, podcasts are exploding. There is so much room for podcasts, and there is a lot of room on webinars and virtual events. And we've kind of got our toe in the water on all of those. And so what I think is exciting from an investor standpoint is we're riding 4 different trends, all of which are growing, but we're not reliant on any one of those trends. And so if, podcasts, we're diversified. And so we're kind of expanding with all of them in a way that benefits us. But if one of them goes away, we've still got 3 others. And I think that that's exciting to know that we're not just a single trick pony. We've got a lot of room. Yep.
So if I were coming to you and I needed help, what kind of questions would you ask me?
I think that, I'll say something that might be anti-Captivate, which is, if you were a, 1 or 2 person company, I would likely say to you that, you, as much as everyone's saying, you got to do social media, if you're a 1 or 2 person company, I think it's more, from my standpoint, I'll tell you where Captivate's at. I do a lot of sales. I do a lot of one-to-one outreach, like I described earlier. And yes, we do social media because we're a social media company, but I don't think that's not going to be the bulk of our growth for the next 6 months. The bulk of our growth is finding partners, finding companies, and that's going to be a one-to-one outreach. And so the thing that I would say to listeners is that there can be a lot of pressure to do it all. And just to be honest about where you're at. And when I'm being honest at where Captivate is at, it's saying, okay, the bulk of my attention needs to go to sales outreach rather than marketing. And I would give that advice to any company who's in our phase. Now, if you're a company that's 10 to 20 employees, 20 to 50, 50 to 300, different game. Then you've got marketing, then you've got advertising. That's who we work with. But I feel like we put too much pressure on the really early stage companies like Captivate to do it all, when in truth, you don't have enough money or people to do it all. And you have to be really strategic. And that means saying no to things that everyone says you should do, that you just don't have the room to do. And so that's, hopefully that depressures it for your audience that are at a smaller company of like, yes, eventually you'll be doing ads and Google ads and Instagram, you'll be doing it all. But you got to be honest about what you're capable of and give that your all. That's the brick before you. And don't worry about the one that's 5 bricks away.
That's great advice. That is great. Okay. Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Ocean Personality Quiz. Are you familiar with that?
No, I love this stuff though.
Okay, good. Okay. Well, a person doesn't get to where you are by slacking off. So if you'll be gracious enough, I'd like to find out a little bit how you tick. Yeah. I have 6 quick questions. I'll do a little definition, and then you just say low, medium, or high. Yeah. Low meaning, nope, that's not me. High meaning, oh yeah, that's me. Yep. Okay. So this is something I found this through, I believe it was Vanessa Van Edwards. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she's a body language expert, and I love her. And I believe Jordan Peterson uses it as well. But it's a really quick way to get a sense of how somebody works, so you know how to work with them best. And I thought this might be a great way for your future clients that are listening to know how to approach you. So
quick side note, Vanessa Van Edwards, we did, company had her speak at an event, and we did their snackable content through Captivate. So we have little video clips from Vanessa Van Edwards. So it's crazy world. Yep.
I love her. I'm writing a book right now, and I'm putting her in my book because I just love everything about her. I want to grow up and meet her. Anyway, openness. If you are high in openness, you love trying new things and having new experiences. Low, medium, or high?
High, very high.
Okay. Conscientiousness. What is your level when you approach organization and details? If you're high in conscientiousness, you're very organized and you love details.
I would say low. I'm good in the short term, but not the long term. I can't fixate on the details for too long.
Okay. Extroversion. If you're an extrovert, you thrive being around people. You just can't get enough.
Very introverted. And I thought for most of my life, I was very extroverted, but I'm actually incredibly introverted.
Really? really, I can identify with that because I'm extroverted in every way, but I love being alone.
Yes.
And I could be 2020 was no big deal for me. I love being home. Okay. Neuroticism. Neurotic is not a bad thing. It just means you worry and have anxiety. Maybe you have high stress levels and might be a bit sharp-tongued at times. Low,
medium.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, that's great. So we just did you.
I love it. I love that.
And then the final question, just for fun, is that if you were one of these characters, which one would you be? Luke Skywalker, played by Mark Hamill in Star Wars, always doing the right thing, loyal, and stands up for his beliefs. Maverick, the cocky, rebellious, highly skilled pilot, played by Tom Cruise on Top Gun. Jack Dawson, played by Leonardo DiCaprio in Titanic. The clever and selfless hero, and then Forrest Gump, played by Tom Hanks, who was lucky throughout his life and pure of heart. Or somebody of your choice. I'd
have to go with Luke Skywalker. I feel like one of my values is just kind of speaking up for the underdog and doing what's right. And so I love Star Wars, so that's a double whammy.
That's great. Good. That's good. Well, that is it. I was going to say, if somebody is listening and wanted to take the next step with you, what should they do?
The best way is if you go to our website, captivate.ai, there's a big requested demo link, and that will go to me and my team, and we can reach out and talk, and, good chance that I will be on that call with you. But, I think that one thing I'll say for listeners is Rebecca's setting such a great example because she's being open and curious. She's just having a conversation, but her and I will be in touch for a very long time. And, we have a relationship now. And I'm just a big believer in that of, I try to get on as many of these calls as possible with people, even if it's not the right fit, because you learn something, you meet someone new. And again, you don't have to know where the bricks are going. You meet people, it may be nothing, but you may reconnect with them months down the road. So I love connecting with people. So if what I've said has resonated, request that demo and we'll talk. And even if it doesn't go somewhere, at least we've had a good conversation.
And we'll make sure that all of your information is in the show notes as well.
Thank you.
But thank you so much for being on The Story Behind Our Success. I still want to learn more and more and more from you. So hang on just a second after we stop recording, and we will right now say goodbye to everybody. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time on Story Behind Our Success.